Was it? Okay, I'm the project officer for the Grassy Ground Cover Restoration Project, and I work with Kim, the Upper Torrens Land Management Project. So obviously what you can see here is native grasses in a seed production area. This is one type of seed production area. There's a huge variety of different things that you could do. This is just what we've done. This is probably, you could almost say it's the Rolls Royce. We wanted to be able to get as much seed as we possibly could with as little effort as possible as well when it comes to maintenance. The expense obviously is a different story. It would be more expensive than most other ways in setup, but the amount of effort that goes into maintenance, obviously with the weed mat that suppresses the weeds, it makes it a lot easier. So basically, the reason we're here looking at these grasses is for the improving pasture and making it a native grass pasture to improve the health of horses, really. So there are many ways you can do it. The ideal way would be to purchase the seed from, let's say, Native Seeds, Ian Shivers, get a contractor in, get them to do all the work, and you've got a native pasture in no time. Now, that's one way to do it, and that's up one end of the scale. Down the other end of the scale, you've got somebody that has a little bit of native grass on their property, and they, in some way, will try and extend that slowly. That's at the other end where you don't need any money at all and very little effort. But somewhere in between is where you, financially, it doesn't actually cost a lot of money to grow some seed, to grow some native grass plants for seed, and then to each year sow it into your paddock, into your prepared paddock, which is the most important part with native grasses, is the preparation. And then you can extend your native grass area. So this here is basically, our project requires 400 hectares of grassy woodland restoration. So you can understand why we need to do it in the way that we can get as much seed as we possibly can. And we're considering it's basically myself and Kim and not many other people helping out. We need to be able to run all of this, harvest it, weed it, look after it, and do everything ourselves. So we're trying to do it in a way that is very low maintenance. So that's why we've done it in this way. So I'll just tell you what we've done. Site preparation. Again, you could not say this enough, site preparation. And here we go again with native seeds. The 7 secrets to success for sowing your native seeds. This is available on the Native Seeds website. If you go to the website, you can actually download this, and it's got site preparation as the #1 most important thing. It's really not about growing native grasses, it's about weed control. That's really what it is. It's about weed control. So what we've done here is we have taken 50 mil of soil off the ground because we have a soil profile that allowed us to do that. A lot of areas don't, but we did here. So we took 50 mil off, removing a portion of the weed seed that sits in the top layer. Then we came through and, we obviously marked out the area, removed the area of soil, laid down irrigation pipe underneath. So this is completely irrigated, but we haven't used it. So it's been here for 2 years without the need for irrigation. So, the species. So we've got wallaby grass here. We've got 2 different species of wallaby grass. On this side here is what is called Ritidosperma geniculatum, or Ostradanthonia geniculata, as some people might know it. And then on the other side there is Ostradanthonia cespitosa, or Ritidosperma cespitosum. So I don't know which one I should be using, but we'll stick to both of them. It's a wallaby grass. Anyway, so what we've done is we've put down irrigation, we've rolled down the weed mat. There's about 10 rolls of weed mat laid down here. We've put a trench in the sides. You can see the side, we've got a mistake that we've made, and we've obviously rectified, is the fence. The fence, we used a silt fence initially, and then it rips in the wind. So we've had to put what is called a poly belt on the inside of it. The main reason for this is to keep the seed contained. It's not really for any other reason. I mean, it helps keeping the rabbits out and things like that. Kangaroos are in here all the time, so you know, obviously they can just walk over that. But it's seed containment. So when it seeds, we don't have to be here exactly when it's ripe and ready to go, because we've got all the other seed production areas. We need to harvest them as well. So we need the seed to be able to drop and just sit there. And then when we're ready to come along, we come through and vac it up and harvest it with a brush harvester as well. So that's what the barrier is for. So the barrier gets sunk into the ground. So there's a definite edge where you can't have weeds coming through. And then we go through and burn or melt. You can see each one of these holes has actually been melted. It's very difficult for everybody to see, but you can have a look afterwards. And the tussock of the grass fills the hole completely. So we've melted holes that are suitable to the size of the tussock that the grass grows to. And then we've planted the tube stock into each of these holes. So we have, that brings me to how did we get the grass in the first place. So the seed initially, we got that from, most of it came from Bob actually. And then we've grown that in the nursery, just in trays, very small amount of room that was required, pricked it out and put it into tubes. So they've ended up being in, I think there's 12,000 plants here. So we've had 12,000 tubes, and then we've planted them in when they've got to a decent size. And here we are 2 years on and we've had 2 harvests from it. So that's basically what we've done and the materials required. The only thing that you can't see is the irrigation. And that's a drip line that runs the entire way down between 2 rows of native grasses. So that's what we do. And we're going to see a variety of other things that can be done throughout the day. Okay, well, in the maintenance of this site, one important thing is what you can see right in front of you. You can all probably see it if you look in. It's what's sitting on the ground. And that's all this stuff. That's one thing in the maintenance that needs to be removed, otherwise you're contaminating your seed supply. So when it comes to, it's just about due for it, we will actually clean this entire site so that it's spick and span, so that when the seed drops, all you're getting is seed. Now when it comes to harvesting, that's the next step after obviously cleaning it. We've got 2 ways of harvesting. There are many ways you can harvest. You can come through here and you can actually just pick it up with your hands. You can use a vac, like everybody, well, some people have got the garden vac that's a Makita or it doesn't matter what it is, that's got the bag on the end. You can suck it up with that. We have a horse poo vac, a Greystone. We've got a yard vac and a paddock vac. And both of those, or one, someone's probably got one. One you can pull behind you and we've got an 8-metre hose on it. So it sits out there and we just go through and we suck it up. Most of it has fallen on the ground. The other machine that we've got is called a grass grabber. So it's not an expensive machine. I think it was, $4,000. It's a brush harvester. So it's got a brush that turns and goes through the heads and pushes the seed back into like a catcher part of the machine. So it's only this wide, and it's light enough for 2 people to easily pick up, put in the back of the ute. It's got bicycle tyres on it. You can adjust the height of it. So that's how we harvest here. Bob's favourite way of harvesting is just with the vac, the portable vac that anybody gets from the hardware store, or even picking it with your hands and putting it into a bag, just walking through and just pulling it off and putting it into a bag. So you don't need fancy equipment. You don't have to do it. You can't think, oh, how am I going to do that? Because literally you can just use your hands, and with very little expense. So that's a basic overview of what goes on here. Has anybody got any questions at all?
When is harvest time?
Depends on the species, but this in particular is usually, it's always at the end of the year, in summer, the beginning of summer. Let me think, we were still harvesting in January. Christmas Day is great for kangaroo grass here actually. Perfect, and kangaroo grass, I won't go into it, we'll leave that for later, but it's one of those things that you've got to get it when it's ready. With this, we just let it drop, and we can, if I'm on holidays for Christmas, I come back and then harvest it later.
How much seed started off this area?
This area here, that much. Just enough to sow. It was about 10 trays, and each tray is about this, not even a foot by a foot. And so 200 seeds in each tray, 500 maybe. And then from the germination that you get, then pricking it out. So all the effort goes into more nursery work than anything, and then putting it into the ground.
What happens with most of the seed that you grow here?
All of the seed goes into the broadacre restoration for the project. We're working on 400 hectares of restoration.
And then people's properties who are part?
Most of it is on people's private properties, and some of it is on extensions of parks and government properties.
Do you have to have this cropped or mown to stimulate the seed production?
Yeah, what happens in the wild or on your property is it gets grazed. So because it doesn't get grazed in here, we need to mimic that, and the way we mimic it is with a lawnmower. We do have a special lawnmower which sits up a little higher than a normal mower, but animals, in the case of all you people, it would be animals that are doing the mowing, but for us it's a lawnmower, yeah.
When would you mow it?
The best time to mow it is in the middle of summer. There's a lot of heat and if the sun gets down into the middle of a crown that you've actually cut, you can actually damage the plant or even kill the plants if you've mown it down too low. So we wait until after the extreme heat of summer, and when it starts to cool a little, and then we mow it down. Animals, that's a different story because that's just completely different. But in the case of mowing it for maintenance, we just leave it until after the worst of summer.
Has it had any fertiliser application here?
None at all.
Do you reckon it'd stimulate the growth if it did?
Probably would, yes.
Cool.
With the stimulation of the native grasses, you'll also have the stimulation of weeds. But the problem that we don't have at the moment is most of our plastic holes, or holes in the plastic, are completely full. There is no room, or very little room for anything to grow through it in the way of weeds. But in the first year to 2 years to getting to this point, it was absolutely covered in weeds. Because our site preparation was we were rushed. We were really pushed to get things happening really fast. Ideally, site preparation would have taken considerably longer than it did. Yeah.
So with the site preparation, you didn't do any soil tests?
On this particular site, no, we didn't do any soil tests, no.
Okay. But I mean, ideally, you if you'd had the time, you would have and re-established a good base to avoid fertiliser?
No. Given how the site was already, we were quite happy that the site was fine. With native grasses, they're very happy to live in a degraded environment when it comes to nutrients. At the same time, they're extremely happy to grow in a high nutrient environment. They're very adaptable. It's really the weeds. The more nutrients you've got sitting in the soil, the more the weeds are going to grow and more competition for the native grasses. So, yeah.
This is a see-through winter active grass.
It is,
Am I
yes.
correct? Yep. It's not very green and active looking. Is there a reason? Like, is it going to bulk up in the spring?
It's coming right now. It's starting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all starting right now. A lot of you can see on the tussocks that some of them look almost dead, or they do look dead. If you look down, there's actually small bits of green that is actually growing through.
So it's more spring active then.
Andrew, frost.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. One of the worst things for some of it, especially being so exposed, is a frost. When a frost comes, it certainly doesn't kill them. It just sets them back, browns them off. But well, as you can see over there's been less brown off or yellowing on the other side with that other species. This side has been more affected by the frost. But as soon as it starts to warm up just a little, as soon as we get a bit more sun, the moisture's there, bang, the plants are just going to go crazy and they'll end up about here. They can actually be a very low species in a natural environment, but in this environment, because it's a production, they actually grow considerably bigger than what they would in the paddock naturally.
Is that because this is ideal for them,
Well,
and that's why
we're removing the competition constantly. They've just got all the room to sort of grow as much as they like. They're protected. We look after them. So.